Rendan. And today I have a very special episode of Couch Commentary for you today. But hey, let's get started with a question. Do you remember Clint Eastwood's latest film, 1517 to Paris? No? Well, neither do I! To preface this review or this commentary, I should say that nobody should watch this movie. Just because I'm reviewing it doesn't mean that I like it, and doesn't mean that I would recommend it, because I definitely don't. Do not see this movie. It's a colossal train wreck. So let's just get into it then. You know, I actually really like the opening to this movie. You get this really nice reveal shot, there's this great music, and... Oh wait, hold on. I got my Unbreakable script loaded up. Okay, let me just... Okay, got it. 1517 in Paris. The opening to this movie sucks. This tracking shot sucks, this music sucks, and even the editing sucks. The opening scene to any movie is super important because you need to establish a lot. You need to set the tone, you need to set the pace, you need to establish the conflict in some cases. And this movie really doesn't. It just kind of shows you what is going to happen later as like the hook, but it doesn't really hook you because you already know the story. So it just fails. So if you don't already know, the big draw of this movie is that Clint Eastwood hired the real people from this train incident to portray themselves in this movie. And he used this as the main selling point for almost every trailer that got put out. Every single trailer was like, the real heroes are the main cast of the movie, and you should come see this to support the real heroes. And I think he did this because he knew that the movie sucks, and they suck.
Look at the baby soda, Spencer. Alex, shut the heck up.
I mean, these actors are not actors. They're real people. And they're awful. But we can talk about that more later as we get more deep into this. One thing I don't understand with this casting is that Clint seems to only take half measures. Obviously, you get some real people involved in this film, but then you also have real actors like Pam from The Office, or this girl whose name I never remember, but I see her everywhere. But I find these casting choices really annoying. If you want to make a movie, then make a movie. If you want to make a documentary, then do that. Choose one or the other so that you don't get some actors that absolutely suck and then others that are okay. But nothing else matters in the scene because this one line at the end is amazing.
Moms, it's just statistics, but statistically, they are more likely to develop problems.
My God is bigger than your statistics.
What does that even mean? The line is so vague, you could literally use it as a retort to anything.
33,000 Americans are killed by guns every year.
My God is bigger than your statistics. My God, he's greater than or equal to your statistics. Then we cut to the main characters as little boys for some reason, who are even worse than the real people.
No one gets it. I tried to fit in here. I tried. They wouldn't let me. You fit in with me.
And so they meet this black kid at the office, and then again at gym class where they're wearing camo for some reason. They're the only people in the gym not wearing a uniform, and I don't know why, but anyway. The black kid gets hit in the head by a basketball, and then he swears at some kids, and then they get sent to the office because this is a Christian or a Catholic school, so swearing's not allowed, but bullying's okay, I guess. So they all get sent to the office, and because they all got sent to the office, they now instantly have a secret handshake. Because that's what you get when you all go to the office as friends together. You know, I never really got sent to the office because I've never really had friends in school, but I don't think this is how that works.
You should. No, you don't think. The constant calls from the principal, all the trouble you've been causing, it's too much. It's too much, Spencer.
Mom, I'm sorry.
And it is getting harder and harder to come in here because every time I do, I just leave disappointed.
Mom,
Go to bed.
What? He was literally running for class president earlier today, wasn't he? One day, he's just ruined his whole life. He's become a complete delinquent in the course of one day because he lost his class presidency running? What is happening?
We know this is difficult, but we think it would be in your son's best interests if he stayed with his father.
How dare you?
Now we see yet another teacher telling our main character's parents what they should do with their own kids.
In my opinion, both Spencer and Alex suffer from something called attention deficit disorder, ADD.
What kind of a teacher self-diagnoses her students with ADD and then tells the parents that they should self-medicate the students? No one would do that. And what kind of principal tells these single parents that their kids should go live with the other parents? And who listens to this advice? I don't care if this is what really happened or not. This is just kind of insulting to see. I can't see anybody doing this, especially not at a Catholic or a Christian school or whatever kind of religious school this is. This shouldn't, and I don't think does happen. You know what's super annoying? When you cut in and out of the main story to throw teaser bits to what's gonna happen later in between the main story, because they know the story's boring. But you even know what's more annoying than this? When they just stop doing it midway through the movie because they know they can't show anymore without just spoiling the ending. So why do this in the first place?
So data analysis is really where it all begins. It's the basis for any job you might have.
Clint, what is this? Why? Why you gotta be like this, man? So they're just old now, I guess, which means the movie's about to take a complete nosedive in terms of entertainment value. I will say, the first 30 minutes of this movie are hysterical. They're freaking hilarious. I said don't watch this movie, but if you wanted to watch the first 30 minutes or so where it's just these little kids' story, you should watch it because it's amazingly funny.
I tried to fit in here. I tried.
It gets really boring. The next 30 minutes of this movie are an absolute drag, except for one scene that's coming up right now, actually.
Guess we'll see about that.
Was a yard short of 1,000 yards.
Once you begin to discover who you are, then you really realize how you have been given authority over your life. But you can only do that through the struggle of life. And most people avoid the struggle. Most people go through life avoiding pain. When you're working on a dream, at some point in time, a transition takes place. Something in you that you never activate is lying dormant in there. You learn how to leap higher. You start challenging yourself to dig deeper. You don't need anybody to approve your dream. Do what you know is right. Don't try and take any shortcuts. Pay your dues. We've been chosen for this great work.
We're going back to the village! I guess we figured out why the villagers didn't follow us.
Congratulations, Airman Stone. You just gave this man permanent brain damage.
I don't know who's editing this movie, but whoever you are, you're doing a really awful job. I mean, why are we cutting in between Alec in this military convoy and Spencer saving this dummy? I mean, I get why we're seeing Spencer doing this, like, saving training on this dummy, because this is what comes back later in the movie. He uses what he learns in this scene at the end of the movie, so it's kind of nice to see this set up and pay off later. But why are we seeing Alec in a convoy? Who cares if he's in the military or not? You can have a couple cutaways to him, like when they're talking on Skype a little later, but why are we seeing this convoy? Why are we seeing him forget his bag and then them going back and finding the bag, and then just leaving. Why did we need to see that? You don't learn anything from it other than that Alec sucks, and nobody likes him. So now they go to Europe, meet some bimbo, and tour around Europe with some of the worst music ever.
Are you not entertained?
Give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Thumbs down. Kill him.
With some of the worst acting ever, and some of the laziest direction I've ever seen in a feature film.
Just throw it backwards. Throw it backwards?
Yeah, if you want to.
Did it make it?
Why are we watching these meat slabs walk around Europe for an hour? Who cares? It's like watching a stupid family home movie. And yet somehow this is directed by Clint Eastwood. Ugh. This is so boring. Oh.
So what do you think of our plan so far? You think we're going to see enough? You're the world traveler here.
Yeah, I think it all sounds pretty good. Grazie. Except...
Okay, I'm going to pause this review to learn you some knowledge, Clint. I know you've been in the film industry for the better part of your life, but this is not how you do sound design in a scene. This is just not how you do it. I mean, they're at this waterfront restaurant, which means that there are servers serving customers, there's people eating food, there's chatter going on in the background, there's waves splashing, there's boats riding in the background, and you know what? You can't hear it.
How come? You didn't have like the best time there?
Paris was okay for me, but I don't know, maybe you guys will have a different experience.
That's actually funny you said that. Like we were like debating, should we even fit it into our trip or not?
Yeah.
You can't hear anything. All you can hear is some light noises and then the characters talking. That's all you hear in this scene. But that's not how it would be, and that's not how you should do the sound design because it sounds super cheap. It sounds like a film student did the sound design. Everything sounds so empty. You gotta add some waves, you gotta add the boats, you gotta add the utensils clinking on plates or people walking around or some light chatter. You need to add things to kind of make you feel like they're actually there and it isn't just a staged scene in a movie.
How come? You didn't have like the best time there?
Paris was okay for me, but I don't know, maybe you guys will have a different experience.
That's actually funny you said that. Like we were like debating, should we even fit it into our trip or not?
Yeah.
What do you think? How come? You didn't have like the best time there?
Paris was okay for me, but I don't know, maybe you guys will have a different experience.
That's actually funny you said that. Like we were like debating, should we even fit it into our trip or not?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, now we finally get to see the infamous train incident, and man, it's boring.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
This is the centerpiece to your film, and one of the craziest stories that I've ever heard about. And yet you approach it like this. Spencer tackles the guy that comes out with a gun, and then it's just over. That's literally the scene. It's like 2 minutes long. The whole film has been leading up to this. They've been dropping little hints like, oh, maybe they're not gonna go on the train. Maybe they were about to decide not to go, but they did at the last minute because it was their calling. And they're setting this whole big thing up, and then it's 2 minutes long. The movie is an hour and a half, and the main centerpiece takes up like 1% of it. Why? There's so much to this that is just completely glossed over. Like, for example, the reason the AK-47 didn't fire when Spencer was running at the terrorist is because there was a bad primer in the bullet, which is like a 1 in a million chance.
Look at how lucky we got. It's like 1 in a million.
The luckiest part of all that was my friend Alec picked up a bullet that he had ejected from the AK, and the firing pin hit the bullet, but it was a bad primer. So, like, that never happens.
But you wouldn't know that unless you looked up the story after the movie, because Clint doesn't tell you. The only reason I know that is because I saw an interview with Spencer on Jimmy Kimmel after the actual thing happened. Clint doesn't tell you this. This is a big deal. This is the reason Spencer is still alive. And yet Clint Eastwood doesn't tell you about it. Why? You have to tell your audience things. You have to give us a reason to care about things that are happening. And you just don't. There are so many things in this scene that are important, Like when the guy takes out a razor blade and starts cutting Spencer's neck, you can barely see it. You can barely tell what's happening. And that is also a big deal because I learned on an interview after I saw the movie that if he had cut any deeper or any more to the side, Spencer would be dead.
That, I mean, you didn't feel him doing that while it was happening?
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. He was about 1 or 2 inches. If he just went like that, I would have just been on the ground bleeding out, so I got really lucky.
So it's another thing that he got so lucky about, and yet is completely glossed over. This is completely insane. You have to be a dimwit to shoot and stage the scene like this. Honestly, this is insulting. This should be insulting to the people that were involved with it because it is so bare bones. You barely show anything that happened. You barely tell us why anything that happens, and then it just is over. So the police run in and help everyone out, and then they go and get some award from the French government, and it awkwardly cuts in between Clint's recreation of the moment and the real thing, which literally makes no sense at all, but okay. So that's the movie. That's it. That's 1517 to Paris. This movie is awful. This movie is completely embarrassing for Clint Eastwood. I don't know how or why he thought this movie would be a good idea. I understand that it was pitched sort of like a joke from the main three guys.
So who had the idea to pitch this to Clint?
Well, we all kind of huddled up and we said, you know, this is what he does. It's right up his alley. And so I went back there and I kind of took lead and I kind of said it jokingly, like, hey, Mr. Eastwood, we're writing the book right now. You should make it into a movie, ha ha. And then it worked, so here we are.
But if it is this lackluster, then why do it? Honestly, it failed at the box office. You knew that it was bad, so you put the real guys in it to dredge up some marketing campaign. So why make this? It's the most boring movie I've seen all year. I mean, the first 30 minutes are funny because the acting, the kid acting is so terrible, and the dialogue is so terrible that it's funny.
My God is bigger than your statistics.
But then the next hour is just these three hunky guys walking around Europe talking about gelato. It's so bland. And it's not like you're learning about the people while they're doing it. They're literally just walking around being tourists. It's like watching a home video. And yet somehow it's directed by an Oscar-winning person. The biggest draw of the movie is seeing the recreated event of the train incident with the terrorist. And it is so incredibly glossed over. It takes up like less than 1% of this movie. And it's so unimpactful that this shouldn't have just been made. You shouldn't have made this movie. If this is the product you were okay with releasing, you should have just shelved it. You should have just not made it, or made it into like a short or something. Do anything else than what you did. I mean, come on, man, this is embarrassing. If this is really what you have left in the tank, Clint, then you should just retire.